I have spent nearly 10 years sat behind other people's podcasts, producing them, structuring them, creating them. And in that time, I've seen lots of examples of really successful shows and shows that just nothing happened the way it should. Being that person behind the scenes of podcasts, which is definitely my happy place, means that I've seen pretty much everything. The decisions that people make that can impact whether the show is a success or not happen very early on and will dictate whether it is still running after 6 months. There are some very common mistakes that get repeated no matter what industry, no matter what type of podcast, no matter what format. And I wanted to go through what those mistakes are. So I'm going to go through some of the key things that I've learned that will definitely help you to have a long-lasting podcast. If you're thinking about starting a podcast or you already have one and it is not quite doing what you hoped, then certainly some of this stuff is going to help you to go into it knowing what you should do or what you need to change. It should also help save potentially a lot of time when you are starting a show to really get going in the right way and potentially save you quite a bit of money in terms of not making mistakes that quite a lot of people do. None of this is just plucked out of the air from nowhere. It is all stuff that I have seen with small businesses, big brands, individual coaches and entrepreneurs on their shows. So let's get to it. One of the key things I have learned over the last 10 years is that the quality of a show is often determined before you even start recording. It's not dictated by the quality of the microphone you have, the quality of the editing that you do, but how clearly you are creating your brief for the show that can dictate everything that comes from it. So that means who you're making it for, the type of episode you're going to create, the clips that you're going to choose from the episode to be your hooks to go out on your social media. All of this stuff is dictated by that brief right at the beginning. When a client comes to me knowing exactly who their listener is, what problem the show is going to solve, and what action they want the listener to take next from the episodes, the production is almost always better and smoother for it. It will give the show far more chance of succeeding and growing because you have that basis for everything. And those are the shows where people stick it out far longer than people who are unsure, unstructured, and don't know where they're going after 4 weeks of doing it. I've seen it when the clarity of that brief is not there, and after that first month, the host is already questioning what they're doing, the format they've chosen, the type of episodes, and they haven't given it enough time to really find out how that format is working with their audience. And that's where it becomes inconsistent in the quality of the episodes because they're not going back to that brief. They become inconsistent in releasing episodes because they're unsure of what they're doing. And what they'll see as a production problem isn't really a production problem. It's actually a strategy problem around sticking to that original brief and who their ideal listener is. So before you spend any money on platforms, equipment, or anything like that, or even start recording, you've got to get that brief right so that everything feeds off of that. So know who the show is for, what it does for them, and then what you want them to be able to do as a result of listening to your episodes. The second fundamental thing, and by far one of the biggest indicators of success of a podcast, is that consistency beats quality every single time, hands down. I have worked on shows where the production values were incredible. The final product of the audio and the video looked absolutely beautiful, but it was really inconsistently done, recorded. The episodes came out sporadically, and compared to other shows where they were a bit more rough and ready, got the recording done, there wasn't such a massive focus on the production values of it. But the fact that they were releasing episodes every week consistently meant that their show did what it needed to do and built income from it for the person's business. This is something that sounds very obvious, and people will talk about being consistent as though it's something very easy to do. It's not, but you just have to go into it knowing what you are able to commit to. So your release frequency is a really important factor here. Don't commit to weekly if you're not going to be able to do weekly. you'll very quickly lose the love if you overcommit from the beginning rather than going down to like a bi-weekly release where it's much more manageable and you're going to get that consistency right. The audience is far less likely to notice a drop in production values if your episodes keep continuously coming out rather than you aiming for that really high level and not achieving it the frequency that your business needs you to. So always remember that a podcast that comes out every 2 weeks over a 2-year period because it was a manageable thing for the host is going to far outperform a weekly podcast that stops after about a month or 2 months because the host burnt out over it. So the third thing is that there is definitely a gap between what is a good episode and what is a useful episode. So I've seen this kind of thing happen quite a lot across different industries with different podcasts. The host thinks they found a great guest to bring onto their show because they are potentially a high-profile name in whatever industry they are in. But again, it doesn't quite fit with that original brief. So they're bringing in a person who will be, yes, an interesting conversation, but it doesn't actually add to the listener's experience of what you are all about and what they want to get out of it. So you can have all of the great quality video, audio, all this kind of stuff with that guest who on paper looks great, but if they don't deliver something to your audience that is related to what you are all about, then what's the point in it? Because ultimately, you want the listener to do something from your episode, to take action, to do something that is going to buy another service from you, a coaching hour or whatever it is. And if the guests aren't talking about something that fits within that world, then the listener is not really going to go, oh, that was a great conversation. Now I'm going to go buy something from your services. They're just going to think, oh, that was a great conversation. And that's it. Just move on. One example of this is when there is a host that lives in a particular social media world. So whether that's Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it is, and they think that by getting other high-profile people from that platform on as guests, that automatically they're going to have a successful show. And it doesn't work like that. Yes, they might be high-profile people on LinkedIn, but they're not necessarily going to be able to have the conversation that your listeners need to take action to buy something from you. It might not be relevant to your service, the things you're talking about. So you've got to think about whether your podcast is going to be something that has to work for your niche and get people on who are related to that, or if you are just going to be having a podcast that is more about the personal stories and that kind of thing. And does that actually relate to your business's mission? So in my experience, the types of episodes that actually get people to take action from them are the ones that are related to that brief that you set at the beginning. It all comes back to that. So again, always think, is this episode hitting my brief? Is this episode hitting what my ideal listener wants to hear about? That is what's going to make people take action far more than a high-profile personal story that doesn't fit within your business's niche. Now, this last one might seem strange coming from me as a production company owner and producer of podcasts, but ultimately the production is the last thing that matters. And what I mean by that is that the content of the episodes is fundamentally the most important thing for your podcast to succeed. I can make the podcast look amazing, sound amazing, do all of the right things with the edits in terms of how it looks for your brand, make it look as though it's an extension of your brand in video, in audio, all this kind of stuff. But if the content isn't there to back that up, then none of that really matters. What production actually does, and what really good production does, is make sure that the content gets in front of people. It's that ability to stop the scroll so people can see not just that this video looks amazing, but also this video is that person's brand straight away. They can see it and they know that they're going to get something from them. The differentiator behind whether, again, someone takes action from the socials to go to the show, or from the show to your business and what services you have, is going to be the content that is within those clips, within those episodes. So, as I keep saying, make sure that content is hitting what the ideal listener is going to want, and are you giving them a way to take action from it? If you are building a podcast for your business and you're wanting help with all of the production side, and that will help you to be able to really focus on all the stuff I've just been talking about, the brief, the content, all this kind of thing, then I'd love to hear from you, and you can book a call in the comments. But we also help with the strategy and structure of your podcast right from the beginning. So is that description hitting that brief? Is the artwork, the way the channels are set up for you, the episodes themselves, the structure of them, what's going to work? What do you need in them? All of this kind of stuff goes into our launch packages and that ongoing support that we have with people. So book a call from the link in the comments.